basically, so the topic is quadratic function. I hope everybody can read my writing, right?
Yeah.
All right.
Yes.
All right. So generally, once you see, you hear the word quadratic equation or quadratic function, generally there is a formula that describes a quadratic equation. So which means any equation that looks like that formula is called a quadratic equation. So that's where we are going to start. So who remembers that relationship that describes the quadratic function? Who remembers that formula?
Ax squared plus bx plus c.
Okay, thank you. So he said ax squared plus bx plus c, and that's an expression. An equation has to have equal sign, equal to what?
0.
Equal to 0. Yes. If you just say ax squared plus bx plus c, you just said an expression. That's not an equation. So all formula must have the left side and the right side. So any relationship that looks like this is a quadratic equation. All right. So now let's give one example. So give me an equation. This is a general, you can call this one general relationship. You can call it general relationship, or general formula. So now let's give just one example of an equation that looks like that. I'm going to write whatever you say.
3x squared plus 2x equals, plus 1 equals 0.
Okay, he said 3x squared plus what?
2x.
2x
plus 1
equal to
0.
Equal to 0. Okay, that's a typical example. Okay, now we have seen one example. So the question becomes, if we identify an equation to be a quadratic equation, what are the possible ways that that equation can be solved? So that's what should come to your mind first. So what are the possible ways that you can solve, that you can use to solve a quadratic equation? So let's write them out. So you can call it method of solution. You can call it method of solution. So what are the methods of solution?
Factoring.
Okay, factoring is one of them. What factoring or factorization? Some places you can see factorization. Yes, what's another method? Another method starts with F. No. It starts with Q. Quadratic formula. Well, you can just call it formula. You can just say formula. Another method is, the next one starts with C. Complete it. Did you see what I wrote? Completing the square. The next one starts with G. What is that one? Yes, graphing. So these are methods of solution. Okay, these are methods of solution. So we have to pick one of them and start with, and then we take it from there. So let's start with factoring. By the way, not all equations, quadratic equations, are factorable. So, but let's start with the one that might be factorable. Let me use this example. X squared plus 7x plus 12 equal to 0. So let's use this one as an example and try to use factoring. If it doesn't work, we try another solution. Okay? So we are using factoring now. So here's what the first thing you need to do if you want to factor. Does anybody have an idea? You want to help us out first before I say something? What are the first thing you need to do? Okay, you know that there's this number here. They are beside x squared. The coefficient is 1. You know that, right?
Yes.
You know that if there is nothing on any variable, the coefficient of that variable is 1. So which means here A is 1, B is 7, and C is 12. So the first thing you need to do is multiply whatever C is, multiply it by A. Whatever that gives you, that becomes a product. So you can say P equal to 12 times 1 is 12. Product is 12. Then this one, you take the coefficient of B. Take the coefficient of B. So, and sum is equal to 7. So now we are looking for two numbers that if we multiply those two numbers, it gives us 12. If we add those two numbers, it gives us 7. So what are those two numbers?
3 and 4.
3 and 4. See, this one is pretty straightforward. So there are two numbers. So those two numbers, you can just write 3 multiplied by 4 is 12, and 3 plus 4 is 7. So that gives us a hint of what we need to do. So we are going to use these three numbers, these two numbers, and then expand the equation. So we can write x squared plus 3x plus 4x plus 12 equal to 0. All right. Once you've written it in this form, then you group your number. You group it in pairs. Once you group it in pairs, then you factor the common. You factor out either the common variable or the common number in each pair. For example, x squared is x times x, and 3x is 3 times x. So what is the common variable in those two numbers?
1x.
Yes, thank you. So we just pull out 1x and say x plus 3 plus, so this other one, 4x and 12, what's the common factor there?
4.
4. So we pull out 4 and say x plus 3 equal to 0. So you can see, you can clearly see that x plus 3 and x plus 3 repeats itself. So you just take one of them. So you have x plus 3, and then you now combine this x and this 4. So you now have x plus 4, and that's equal to 0. So the real factors of this expression are x plus 3 and x plus 4. That's the real factors. Okay, now if the question says, what is the value of x? If the question says, what is the value of x? You see, in this type of question, they can ask it in two different ways. So they can say, factorize the expression. If the question is factorize the expression, now here these are your solution. These are the factors of this expression. But if the question says, what is the value of x? Like he says, solve for x. In that case, if he says solve for x, so now let me write this for, to avoid confusion. I would say solve for x. So in that case, after the factorization, what you need to do would be to write x plus 3 equal to 0, because this thing tells us that there are two possible values of x. That's all it's telling us. So, and then x plus 4 is equal to also 0. So, and this gives us x is equal to -3, and this gives us x is equal to -4. All I did is I just transferred 3 to the other side of the equation, and it gives me negative. That's all I did. Any questions so far?
No, sir.
All right. So that's a way of solving this thing by factoring. Now, how about solving the same equation by formula? So let's solve the same equation by formula, okay? So I can write solve equation using formula. Okay, so the equation is x squared plus 7x plus 12 equal to 0. So now the question becomes, you see, it's telling us a specific way, a specific method that we have to use in order to solve the equation. And it says solve using formula. All right, so what's the formula of quadratic equation formula?
Y equals -b plus minus the square.
Okay, that's actually the general equation of a quadratic actually solve for the value of x. So it should be x equal to, go ahead now.
-b plus minus the square root of b squared
square root of b squared
subtracted by 4 AC
minus 4AC
divided by 2A.
divided by 2A. All right. So here's what I'm going to do now. Let me try to create a small group right now. And once you get to your small group, you try to discuss what you need to do in order to solve for this. So I'm going to create a small group now. Okay.
Just plug in
The factors or the numbers.
Just plug in the numbers. Those are the things you should have said in your, and probably everybody knows what to say. Just plug in the numbers. So what the question becomes, what is the value of A, B, and C?
A is 1.
So A is what?
1.
And B is what?
7.
And C is what?
12.
Okay, then you plug in the numbers, like you already said. So you are going to have X equal to -7 plus or minus square root. What is that? Is that 7 squared, right? Yes. Is that correct?
Yes.
And minus 4 multiplied by A is 1 and multiplied by C is 12 and then divide by 2 multiplied by 1. Okay, so I'm going to give you, everybody, I'm going to give you 2 minutes to solve it out yourself. 2 minutes. So you are now working independently in your own desk without talking to anybody. You're just working by yourself. So evaluate what we just wrote now. You're working by yourself. 2 minutes. Get me the solution in 2 minutes. 1 more minute. So let's continue. So what did you get as your solution? I'm going to be calling names randomly now. Nala, what did you get as your solution?
I got kind of like a little bit confused towards like, I guess when it comes to getting rid of the square root, so I didn't finish my solution yet.
Okay, so at where are you? So what did you write inside that square root sign?
So after like solving or like completing what's inside the square root, I got 49 and then like minus like 48. That's what I got.
Okay, so that's 49.
I got 2 different answers.
Yeah, that what you're saying is it's 49 minus 48, right?
Yeah.
So what should be 49 minus 48?
1.
Okay, good. So what is square root of 1?
1.
1.
1?
1.
Yeah. Square root of 1 is 1. So you just got rid of the square root.
Okay.
And did anybody get something else? I'm going to call another person, right? I'm going to be calling names randomly. So since you're not volunteering, I will be calling names randomly.
Wait, I got
Merton, what did you get?
for my solutions, I got -3 and -4.
Okay. I'm going to call another person randomly. Dulcie, what did you get? Mikael? Okay. Aziri, you need to unmute yourself and say something. Diara Santos, what did you get?
I'm still working on it.
Okay. Ifoluwa, what did you get?
I got -4.
Just -4. If
Yeah.
you have 2 solutions, that's what quadratic equation always has 2 solutions.
I have -3 and -4.
Okay. By the way, -3 and -4, they are both correct. Anyway, so now, guys, you gotta get used to this. So now let's write it out entirely. So this is equal to -7 plus or minus square root of 7 squared is 49 minus 4 times 1 is 4 times 12 is 40, divide by 2, and then that gives us, next line should be -7 plus or minus 49 minus 48 is 1. So you have square root of 1, which is 1. So over 1, divide by 2. So this is still your x. So now x1 is going to be -7 plus 1 over 2, and then x2 is supposed to be -7 minus 1 over 2. So this should give us that x1 is -7 plus 1 is what? -6. So -6 over 2 will also give us -3. And this one, this sign means it follows. It means it follows that. So it follows that -7, -1 is -8 over 2, which gives us -4. And if we come back to the original solution when we did factoring, you can see that it is the same thing. All right? Make sense now? All right. So now we are going to use the same equation, but instead of using factoring or using quadratic equation, we are going to use graphing. Let's use graphing to solve the same problem. All right? We are going to use graphing. So the question now is using graphical or graphing method, solvation. -3 whole squared is what? -3 times -3.
Isn't that
9.
negative
It's
18?
9. Okay. 9. Okay, so we have 9. I'm going to write beside. We have 9. 7 times -3 is what?
-21.
9 minus -21 plus 12. So what does that sum up? Okay, -18. And then you repeat the same process. Do it for all of them. So I'm going to do some of them. I'm going to do 0. So you have 0 squared plus 7, 0 plus 12. This one is going to give us 12. So you have to do the rest of them. Complete the table, and then we are going to plot the graph below it. Okay, so who has done for -2? What's -2? What did you get?
2.
2.
How about -1?
6.
6.
Okay. How about 0 is 12? How about 1?
20.
How about 2?
I didn't do it yet.
Okay, let's do that one together. So you're talking about
That's 32.
Okay, 32. Thank you. And then how about 3? That should be 3.
42.
Is it 42? Okay, thank you. So that's just 3 squared plus 7, 3 plus 12. So that should be 9 plus 21 plus 12. Is that 42?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So we just completed our table. Now here comes the next step, which is to graph. So which is to graph. You see, when you look at your values, you see that your smallest the smallest x value is -3, and then the largest x value is 3. On the other hand, the minimum y value is -18, and then the maximum y value is 42. So you are going to use this minimum and maximum to determine how you are going to draw your scale, select your scale. All right. So I am just going to draw a straight line. Draw a straight line, horizontal line, and then I will draw a vertical line, and this is going to represent my x-axis and the corresponding y-axis. This is y, this is x. So we have 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, -3, -2, -1. This is 0 right here. 1, 2, 3. You see, now let's work on the y-axis. The maximum value is 42. So now we can do 10, 20, 30, 40. We can do that. So we can do 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. And then we can also do -10, -20. This is still our y value. This is 10, 20, 30, 40, and 50. So now let's come back to our table again. And when x is -3, we have -18. So when x is -3, you have -18. Remember, this is your 10, and this is actually -10, and then this is -20. So when x is 3, -20. So I'm sorry, -18. -18 should be somewhere here at this point. All right. Next one is when x is -2. This one is 2. So -2 and 2. So somewhere here. And next one is what? Next one is -1 and 6. -1 and 6. -1, 6 is probably somewhere. 6 is somewhere here. So next one is what? 0 and 12.
Oh, I have a question.
Yes.
For when x is -3, put -18, right?
What is it supposed to be?
0.
Okay, let's verify. We are saying that, let's verify. -3 times -3 is 9. We agree with that. And then, what is it? 7 times -3 is -21. -21. -21 plus 12. Okay. Is that a 0?
Yeah.
All right. So then we change that to 0. You see, if your value is wrong, your graph is going to be wrong. All right. Thank you for the correction. So when x is -3, that should be 0. -3 and 0. -3 and 0, which is right here. So I am going to erase the other number I plotted. I am going to erase this one. All right. So thank you for the correction. Next is what? We plotted -1, so we plotted 0 is 12 actually. So 0 is 12. 0 is 12. 12 is somewhere. And what else? 1 is 20. 1 is 20. 20 is somewhere here. And the next one is 2 is 32. 2 is 32. So 32 is somewhere here. Next is what? 3 is 42. 3 is 42. 3 is 42. So 42 is somewhere here. So now you can see that the graph goes somehow like this. The graph goes somehow like this. And then it cuts across, it should actually cut across -3 and -4. So let me make a little correction now. It should actually cut across -4. Is here, -4, -5. So it should actually cut across, come like this, and go like this. You see? So this is a rough graphing that we just did. And if you're using your real graph paper, you are going to have a better graph display.
True.
All right. You see? So now, with this example, we have just illustrated how to solve quadratic equation using factoring and also using formula and also using graphing.